Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be answering many of the questions that we got asked over on our Instagram about our recent Palestine trip.
This trip was incredibly eye-opening and really emotional for us, and I know a lot of you are really interested in understanding our experience during our time in Palestine. So we're going to be really honest and open with everything that we experienced while we were there.
So in this video we're going to be covering everything from how we entered into Palestine to all the places that we visited and everything you need to know when traveling across this region. Okay, so let's get some of the questions up then. So I think you've got it on your phone.
Yeah,
Let's see, we had hundreds of questions over on our Instagram. So some of the questions received was around safety and security. So we had a lot of questions. Did you feel safe while traveling to Palestine, especially with the current situation in Gaza? Is it safe to travel as a Muslim family? Were you concerned about the safety due to the war? Is it safe to travel for women alone? Is it safe for kids and families? So let's start off with, is it safe, first of all?
So in summary, yes, it is safe. You saw our experiences. We walked around and we explored Masjid al-Aqsa and Jerusalem, as well as Bethlehem and Hebron. One thing to know is understanding the geography of this very complex region. So first of all, Palestine is split into two. You've got Gaza, which is where basically the war is happening and everyone is seeing on social media what is going on over there. On the other side, you have the West Bank, and this is where we basically traveled to. We went to Jerusalem, we went to Bethlehem, and we went to Hebron, and these all sit within the West Bank area, which is separate to Gaza. There's no war going on there per se, but there is a lot of military presence. And from time to time, there is some skirmishes between Israelis and Palestinians in certain areas. So just bear that in mind. But for us, we experienced no issues. We felt completely safe there. Military presence over there is a bit intimidating when you first arrive, but to be honest, within the few hours, you kind of get used to it and it didn't really affect us.
Yeah, so there's a lot of military presence. There's some checkpoints you'll have to get through. You know, we had a situation, there was a lady on our bus that got held back. And, that was really eye-opening for us because, two soldiers with rifles came onto the bus and they kind of kept her for quite some time. But eventually she was allowed back onto the bus. And when we actually spoke to her and said, "Are you okay?" she kind of just laughed at us and just said, this is an everyday occurrence for us. It's normal. It was quite scary. That was the first time that we've seen anything like that since our travels.
I think that was an eye-opener for us. She was literally dismissed it oh yeah, I'm fine. And for us, we were when we were lined up, questioned by these two IDF soldiers, what are we doing here, why are we here and stuff. We were just kind of we were a bit shook, but for them, it's just everyday occurrence. So that was a massive eye-opener.
And I'll be honest, if they know that you're a tourist, you would have zero hassle, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Is it safe for families? Yes, it is. We were really surprised that there were so many families when we arrived in Jerusalem actually there staying in our hotel, when we met quite a few people that came with their children over there, and that to us was really eye-opening. We didn't really think there was going to be many tourists to begin with. The tourists that we did see, a lot of them were either from the UK or they were from South Africa, and we met quite a few families there with their children exploring around, and that actually was quite reassuring when we arrived there. And to be fair, the Palestinians, they love children, they love families, and so Zakaria loved it there. I remember when he entered the Al-Aqsa compound the first time, he just was running around in the courtyard, and then when he went into Masjid Qibli, he was running around there. And even in the morning when we got up, he was asking us, are we going to mosque today? Are we going to the mosque? So yeah, he really enjoyed it. It was really good for families, and I would say it's safe, right?
Yeah, 100%. Another question under the security and safety was, is it safe for women to travel alone? Now, I actually know a girl on Instagram, she's a Niqabi. She recently went just before Ramadan and she had some trouble flying into Tel Aviv. From our research, from what we know, if you are traveling solo, whether you're a male or a female, be prepared if you are going to be flying into Tel Aviv that you may get held for questioning because they find it maybe a little bit more suspicious. I do know if you're a family, like Girlfriend said, it's quite easy to get through. We'll cover this topic more in detail later on. But in terms of, is it safe to travel alone? I'd say it's fairly safe. But just bear in mind that if you're entering via the Tel Aviv or even Jordan border, to be honest, you may get held for questioning for a few hours. So just be prepared for that.
Was there heavy military presence or any issues at checkpoints? Well, we kind of answered this already.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a lot of military presence around the Jerusalem Old Town. So when we arrived into Tel Aviv and got their train into Jerusalem and then also the tram into the old town or the old city, we didn't really see any military, to be fair. It wasn't until we actually got off the tram and were going to the Damascus gate towards our hotel, we started seeing the checkpoints and we started seeing the military presence. And so that's where kind of reality kicked in and we thought, okay, so yeah, there is stuff going on over here. If you want to go into Masjid al-Aqsa, you have to have your passport with you because they will check your ID. They will ask if you're Muslim and they will sometimes question you. We as a family didn't really get questioned before going into Masjid al-Aqsa, but when I went on my own, I had my passport and I was questioned, you know, are you Muslim? Who are you here with? And then I was eventually let into the compound. The other checkpoint that you have to bear in mind also is if you're going to Bethlehem, if you're going to Hebron, you will pass through a military checkpoint, either when you're going there, or definitely when you're coming back. So just bear that in mind, plan that into your trip, and do know that sometimes the checkpoints are randomly closed off in the evening for the night. So make sure you leave at a reasonable time. I'd say any time before 7 is what I read online. Typically the checkpoints are guaranteed to stay open, but after that is basically potluck. So yes, there is military presence, you do see it, but after a while it just becomes normal, right?
Yeah, and just to touch upon that, I think for me it felt more intimidating when we were in Hebron. The soldiers and the checkpoints were a bit more strict and a bit more ruthless there compared to being in Jerusalem. And I don't know if that's because there's more tourists, it's more tourist central, they expect more people to travel around Jerusalem, not many people travel outside of the West Bank area and into Hebron. So for me it felt quite intimidating going to the Ibrahimi Mosque and going through the gates, and that was quite eye-opening as well. So there are a lot of military presence.
So the next set of questions we got was all around the religious sites. So some of them were, how was the experience visiting Masjid al-Aqsa? Was the entry difficult? Did the police allow you to go through easily? Can people still visit al-Aqsa now, and what does it look like inside? And then also, when did you visit and how long for? So date, duration.
So we went in April. The exact date was on the 6th of April. And we were there for 5 days. In terms of Masjid al-Aqsa, I think Irfan's already touched on the security questions that you get asked.
For us, when we arrived into Tel Aviv airport and we went through immigration, to our surprise, we literally had zero issues whatsoever. We were absolutely shocked that we weren't pulled behind, we weren't questioned for hours, even though that's pretty much what we had prepared ourselves for. So when we were leaving Rome, we had food, snacks, entertainment for Zakaria, everything all ready to be held for like 8-9 hours. But lo and behold, when we got to immigration, we were literally asked about 3 questions. So why are you traveling now? What are you going to do here? And are you religious? Nadia got asked a weird question. What was her dad's name? And I think maybe it was because the spelling was a bit weird on travel documentation. And we think that's because we're a family, right? We're husband and wife, we've got a 3-year-old son with us. We're maybe seen as just casual travelers. However, we have been told that if you're traveling as a group of lads, traveling on your own, there is a very high chance that you're going to get stopped and you're going to get questioned for hours. There is obviously a risk of you being turned back and not being entered into Israel, but that really is dependent on your situation, who you are as an individual, where you've traveled to previously, and really the immigration officer. So it's a bit of luck and who you're traveling with really. But our recommendation is plan for the worst, expect to be held up for hours. You know, if you're expecting it, then you can deal with it a lot more and just be prepared.
We've heard at Fajr time it can be more harder to get in. We did meet some brothers that were refused and had to go through other gates, but alhamdulillah, for us as a family, every time we went, we made sure we had our passports in our hands, so it was on display. They clearly see our passports as we're walking through, and we hardly got asked any questions.
I think when you're going to see Masjid al-Aqsa and going into the compound, as long as you have your passport and obviously have the visa slip with you as well, just in case, it's fine. You might get asked a couple of questions, but typically I think it's really okay. Big groups of lads, I would say, split up into 2s or 3s at the very most and go, because it can be intimidating if there's like a group of 5 or 6 of you all at once going toward the entrance, and the soldiers, the IDF soldiers, get a bit shaken up because of that. Surprisingly, they're the ones with the guns, but you know, it's just one of those things. So just split up, go in 2s or 3s, have your ID with you, and if you do get turned away from one checkpoint or one entrance to Masjid al-Aqsa, then you can always go around and try some of the other gates and you might have better luck. You can visit, obviously, and when you do get in, the experience was surreal, I have to say. It was like no other. It was really, really, really emotional. We've both wanted to visit for years now. We've put it off.
Yeah, we put it off because exactly like you, probably watching this now, a little bit nervous, a little bit scared, not really know what to expect. That's the reason why we're making this video, to give you that reassurance.
So yeah, if you are watching this and you're thinking about going, definitely go, even if you are non-Muslim.
Yeah.
So the next set of questions were all around tour guides and local interaction. So can you recommend a Palestinian tour guide? So who was your guide and how did they help, and would you suggest hiring one? Then there was, did you speak to locals or displaced Palestinians, and are locals aware of global reactions, and did you make any donations, and what is needed most?
So in terms of tour guide, we use Abdul Majid. He's an amazing tour guide, Palestinian. He knows every single corner of the compound. He's so full of knowledge. We literally started our tour, I think it was after Zohar Namaz.
Just after Zohar Namaz?
And it went on up until after Maghrib Namaz, and it could have continued. We could have done another 2 or 3 days because there was just so much information that was packed within those few hours. And it was honestly amazing. There was parts of Al-Aqsa that we had no clue, which he explained to us, which was really, really good.
There's loads of different places within Masjid al-Aqsa, or I would say Al-Aqsa compound itself, that have various different significance behind it. Things from the Masjid Umar, the area where Maryam alayhi salam was brought up. There's the library which Salahuddin Ayyubi built, and the kind of shortcut which from the library right to the mosque. There's so many different corners and different places, and he really explained the significance behind all of them. The brother Abdul Majid was very, very knowledgeable, very, very nice guy.
He was just amazing. Definitely 100% recommend. One of the best tour guides we've had.
One of the best. And also his son is also a registered tour guide, so his son can take you out and around Jerusalem, Hebron and Bethlehem as well. So we'll definitely recommend that as well, because we did get into some sticky situations when we did visit Bethlehem and Hebron, and then we've done a whole video of that and you'll get to see exactly what happened. But yeah, if you're going outside of Jerusalem and going to other towns and stuff, I would, like Jericho, Hebron, Bethlehem, get a tour guide, and would recommend getting Abdul Majid's son because he's registered, he knows everything, and he's really, really good.
But yeah, what we'll do is we'll leave the contact details for Abdul Majid in the description below. So, do reach out to him. Just let him know Irfan and Nadia sent you guys across, and then he'll know exactly who we are, because we're just the best, weren't we?
Yeah. So the next one was, did you speak to locals or displaced Palestinians? Are locals aware of global reactions? Did you make any donations, and what is needed most?
So yes, we definitely spoke to a lot of locals. As we mentioned, every single local that we spoke to, they all want you all to come and visit. Don't abandon the Holy Land. Especially when we went outside of Jerusalem. Even in Jerusalem, everyone we interacted with, especially with Zakaria, they were just so happy, so friendly. We met that lovely Amina's grandmother.
Yep.
She was so adorable. We got invited to people's houses to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just so welcoming, and we did have some proper conversations with people in the West Bank. They told us about their struggles, especially after COVID. I think the whole world shut down, everyone struggled, but for these guys, it's continued after COVID.
When I was speaking to a couple of locals, one thing that they did say was, you're raising a lot of money, you're getting a lot of donations. The best way to get it to the people is actually come here yourself and hand it in by person, because a lot of the aid that's being raised is just not getting through, and that's the biggest problem that they said. So yes, there was a couple of Palestinians that said, well, even if it's going to cost you 400 or 500 quid or whatever to get to Palestine, bring that money with you and just hand it to the people and hand it to the needy by hand. So that's something that we're going to think about doing at some point, raise some money and see if we can take that with us and give it by hand.
Yeah, it's one thing that I so regret not doing beforehand, is because we've seen so many people. We tried to help out as much as we could, but it would have been nice if we had a full-on GoFundMe or charity prepared prior to our trip, which is something that we're definitely going to do. And don't forget about the people that are in the West Bank as well. Obviously there's suffering in Gaza. Food trucks, aid are not able to get into Gaza right now, so it's going to be quite hard. But just remember, there's other parts of Palestine too, people that are also struggling, that need your help. So definitely go there, like Irfan said, and hand it out yourself.
Yeah. Every single local that we met was pretty much saying the same thing. The bottom line is, we don't need your money. We don't care about money. What we need is your presence. We need the Muslim Ummah and the international community to come here and visit us and not abandon us, because if we abandon them, then it's just another excuse and quite easy for the occupation army to basically take over. So let's all make the effort, let's all go visit our brothers and sisters in the West Bank, in Palestine, and show our presence that we do care about them. So now we've got things around political and humanitarian questions, and we can be really open and honest about this because this is quite an important topic. So what's really happening in Gaza? Are Palestinians being massacred and starved? Is the media exaggerating the violence? And why can't tourists enter Gaza? And then lastly, do you sense underground resistant movements? So firstly, did we sense any underground resistant movements and local sentiments towards the ongoing occupation? Let's put it this way. The first day that we arrived into Palestine and made our way to Jerusalem, after we checked into our hotel, we went to a restaurant called Al-Baghdadi to eat. And there we found out that the next day, everything was going to be closed. Ah, really? Everything here is closed?
Everybody closed tomorrow, nobody open.
Everything in the old town that's Muslim owned was going to be closed. No shops, no food, nothing, in protest of what's happening in Gaza. And they regularly do that. And that really disrupts the local economy over there. And so yes, there is resistance happening over there. In terms of like underground resistance, obviously we were there as tourists, so we didn't really see any of that. We didn't experience any of that, and we wouldn't really know about it. But there is a general sentiment of the brothers and sisters over there and the struggles, which is quite sad to see, because the guys in the West Bank are like, we're helpless, we can't do anything. We're all the way over here, split from our brothers and sisters, and they can't do anything to help. And I think that's one of the key challenges that these guys are facing, right?
Yeah, and they're struggling themselves. And I think the population of under 15s is nearly 40% in the West Bank area. So we've seen a lot of young people, a lot of young kids that are just starting their life, which is really sad to see as well.
That's what the sentiment there is like. In terms of what is actually going on in Gaza, are people being massacred, and is the media overplaying it? The bottom line is, we've seen it all on videos, right? We've seen it all on social media. Even though we can't enter Gaza because obviously it's a war zone, and Israel is actually stopping everyone from going into Gaza, even journalists and international aid. But what we've seen online and what we've seen on the videos is actually true. Palestinians are being massacred, they're being killed, literally ethnically cleansed. If anything, I think the media is underplaying it because we only see a little snippet of what's happening in social media. So the fear is that it could be a lot worse than what we see going on social media right now.
If it wasn't for social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok, I don't think we'd know half of what the situation is going on.
So yeah, it's a struggle, and whatever we hear is probably only just a portion of what is actually going on.
Yeah. So then finally we have, can you talk about your experience crossing the Palestinian border to Jordan? Thank you for showing us a beautiful place. Can you show us the best route to travel from the UK for a couple? Yeah, let's talk about how we did it.
So in terms of what the best route is, our personal opinion is flying from London or flying into Tel Aviv and going through Tel Aviv. That's purely because if you do get stopped at the border for hours, you're at the airport, there's a semi-comfortable room that you can sit in and really relax for a few hours while you get questioned. I think that's my opinion. And also it's a lot cheaper to enter into that region via Tel Aviv. The downside is that and that's a very, very slim chance, if you're not allowed in for whatever reason that is, you're pretty much getting a flight back home or a flight back out at your own expense. Whereas if you come via Jordan and cross into Palestine through the Jordan border, if you do get turned away, then you've always got Jordan, which you can explore. And it's an absolutely beautiful country, which we also explored and took the opportunity while we were there. It's really about, what you want to do and how you look at it. But I think equally both are as easy as it is to enter. Our opinion is Tel Aviv was a lot easier.
Yeah, we did get a lot of comments on our Instagram saying I would never go through Tel Aviv, I would not support the occupier. We did both land border and we did the flight into Tel Aviv. And as Irfan said, if you've got kids, it is actually a lot smoother for us. We got questioned for maybe about 10 minutes. I think we were more nervous entering to Tel Aviv because of all the horror stories we've heard prior. To be honest, the exit tax when you leave Jordan can actually work out more expensive than getting a flight into Tel Aviv.
Exactly, yeah.
So the cost of the exit tax is per person, and there's 3 of us, so we had to pay for Zakaria as well. The total cost for the exit tax was £60 per person.
I think it was like £60 per person, but a lot of people made comments like saying, well, that's not Israel, that's actually Jordan, but actually it is a tax to exit via the Israeli border into Jordan. Well, I say Israeli border, but the border controlled by Israel going into Jordan. So yes, that money is collected by Israel and is going to the occupier, but I mean that's unavoidable. Whether you go in and out via Jordan or whether you fly into Tel Aviv, you're kind of like supporting that economy in some shape or form. So you just have to kind of look at the pros and cons and kind of balance it out for your own needs.
Yeah, and inshallah, you know, may Allah make your trip easy for you and you get through. But yeah, that's our personal opinion. For us, convenience. But like Irfan said, the pros and cons. I've got the pros and cons written here. So pros are flying in. It's faster, it's smoother with kids, sometimes cheaper. You can get flights for like £54 and it's more direct route. The cons, no fallback plan. You might get refused entry, so it means you have to fly back. You still support the occupiers financially, unfortunately. Pros of going through the land border via Jordan. You can explore Jordan, go to the land border. It's more flexible if your entry is denied. Worst case scenario, you're going back into a lovely country. And the overland journey can be quite insightful. So it's totally up to you which way you look at it. The cons is the exit tax, as you mentioned, is £60 per person, even for children, which I was quite surprised. Yeah. It's a tedious process. And yeah, there's long waits and multiple checks. There was a family there that literally got held. And there was literally like 2 or 3 seats. There's no space for people. You're kind of just hanging around. Yeah, it does make it more difficult, to be honest. Yeah. But that was our experience personally. It's not a bad way to do it. Both ways are absolutely fine. We did it. It wasn't the end of the world, but it did take a lot longer.
So final comments from viewers. A lot of you said thank you for promoting awareness. You're welcome. No questions, just appreciation. And then a lot of people were saying, you made us want to visit Masjid al-Aqsa. And that for us is mission accomplished, because that is one of the key things that we wanted to do, is to show you all that A, it's possible to visit and actually get some interest and get people to think about visiting again, because, you know, they need us there. So I think mission accomplished. And what we're looking forward to doing now is planning our next trip there. And I keep kind of thinking, when will we go back? And a lot of people asked, will you go back? So yeah, I think we'll definitely be visiting at some point soon. Not sure when. Keep a lookout on our Instagram page, because that's where we share our kind of like plans of what's coming up. So we will be sharing on our Instagram page if we're visiting soon and if we're looking to raise any money for donation and charities there. So keep a lookout on that.
Our DMs are always open, so feel free to ask us any questions. There may be something that we've not covered. But yeah, we hope you found this video really useful.
So this Palestine trip that we did was really, really emotional. It was really eye-opening. And I think it's probably one of the best trips that we've done in the few years that we've been traveling. We'd recommend you as individuals, as couples, as husband and wife, as families, to all visit Palestine. We hope this video really helped with answering some of the questions that you had, or even some of the reservations that you had on visiting Palestine. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. It gave you some insight on what's going on there. And yeah, we'll see you.
Thank you so much, guys. And as always, follow your visions, and we'll see you
on the next one.
Ciao, bye.